Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, thank you. Let's get a picture with it. Let me get in the middle here. Okay, here we go. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much. This is great. This is very cool, I have to tell you. So, well, thank you. It is so great to be back, and I have to first start by saying I appreciate that Walter finally admits who won the game and the Rose Bowl. He has yet to pay the bet, though. So I'm just saying, he said he's not quite coping enough yet to actually pay the bet, but I'm going to make sure he does, believe me. So, but thank you for those kind words. And I think the last time I was here, I was talking about Whole Foods and Walter Robb's passion for Detroit, and I just have to tell you, things are happening in the city of Detroit. Food, urban agriculture, the greening of Detroit, things are exciting and happening, and Walter Robb is right in the middle of it. So will you please help me give him a And all my friends from Michigan, Herb Brooks and NSF, and all of my friends, thank you so much. I'm so proud of you and what you do and the quality standards that you are setting every single day. And I understand we have a very special person, Kisong Shumu. Where's Kisong? Who's right here. Thank you for traveling all the way from the nation of Bhutan to be with us. Thank you very much. We need to say thank you for being here. So. You know, I remember, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'm not sure, time flies when you're having fun, I'm not sure, but being here as we started the process and saying that my goal was to make sure that rather than pitting different parts of agriculture against each other, that we were going to invest in all of agriculture. That my goal was to make sure that we were investing in the fastest growing part of agriculture, which is organics, right? Yes. And traditional agriculture, everything in between. That this was not going to be a farm bill, as others have done in the past, that really pit one group against the other. And I'm really proud today to stand here and say, we did that. We did that. And I know you know the wins, but I just have to go through. There's only one group that literally got every ask of us in the farm bill, and that's the organic community. The Research and Extension Initiative, the National Organic Certification Cost Share Program, the National Organic Program for Technology and enforcing the organic seal, the National Organic Program Enforcement and the integrity of the label, which is so important, the data collection pieces, which are so very important, the Organic Commodity Promotion Order for promotion and research and information, and crop insurance. Whoops, is this out? Okay, all right, thank you. And finally, is this okay? And finally, crop insurance. Not only organic crop insurance, but whole farm insurance, which I think you're going to hear more about later today. So there are, from research to enforcement to cost share to the efforts to do promotion to crop insurance. I'm very, very proud of the fact that organics are throughout every piece of tools for farmers in the Farm Bill. One other thing I would really stress, and I know you know it, and Walter talked about it a bit in terms of building coalitions. We had the broadest set of coalitions imaginable. I was telling him the story of, in the end, on the conservation title, and I'm very proud of what we were able to do there. Every farm program now has to comply with conservation in order to receive assistance. This is very important, preserving our land and water, our air. We are in America spending more to invest in conservation in land in the Farm Bill than any other part of the federal government, because we invest in land owned by somebody. And 70% of the land in our country is owned by somebody. And those are the programs that come through the Farm Bill. So the land that we own, forested land, open spaces, farmland now, are all connected to what we call conservation compliance. But as we went through this process looking for the broadest possible coalition, particularly after the first time when we couldn't even get it taken up in the House, and then the second time it was voted down in the House in 2013, and then it was ripped apart, and the attacks on nutrition and everything else that happened, we were looking for the broadest coalition. So in the end, we had wonderful conservation groups, wonderful environmental groups supporting us on the conservation compliance. The commodity groups had stepped up to do that as well. But I was looking for the broadest coalition. So I said to my friends in Ducks Unlimited that, why doesn't the NRA get involved? We're protecting hunting habitat, rather than running around and fighting safety laws and everything. Why don't they get involved and do it? So the NRA ended up endorsing the Farm Bill, which is the only bill of mine the NRA will probably ever endorse. So, and then on the other side, I was talking about the climate impacts of what we were doing, which are significant, by the way, in the way we have moved forward on conservation. And so, I said, we need to be focusing on the climate impact. So I was really proud that the Union of Concerned Scientists endorsed our bill. And so we had this broad conservation title, and so I would run over to in the House as it was passing, and unfortunately, as a former House member, I had to pass. I could be on the floor, and I was bound determined that it was not going down again. I was going to stare those guys down. It was not going down. And so we would run over to the Republican side and say, did you know the NRA is endorsing this bill? And then I'd go over to my Democratic guy, did you know the Union of Concerned Scientists? And I had to make sure I was remembering who I was talking to, a Democrat or Republican, as to who I said it to. But in the end, all of it was very, very important, and we were proud to have everybody's support. Going forward, the reason I'm mentioning this is that if we're going to get another Farm Bill somewhere down the road, and I don't want to think too much about it now or I'm going to slit my throat, but if we're going to get another one down the road in 5 years, we have to keep broad coalitions. That's the reason I'm mentioning it. And so as you move forward in a very exciting, important part of agriculture, it's important that we show respect for all parts of agriculture. That's the way we keep this thing going, is so that we are not pitting people against each other. We are saying, hey, let the market decide, right? Let the marketplace, let the consumer decide. But we're going to support everybody to have the opportunity to be successful. In Michigan, almost 1 out of 4 jobs is connected to agriculture and the food industry. It's a big deal. I don't think we have an economy unless we make things and grow things. And that's what we do in Michigan and California and everywhere else. But you don't have an economy unless you do that. So I'm excited about the opportunity. We are committed to making sure that enforcement goes forward, that implementation goes forward. We're very anxious to work with you to make sure what we put in place actually happens in the right way, that the tools are there for you. We want you to be successful, and we want you to grow the economy as well as grow your products and make your products. And I believe we'll continue to have a strong economy in our country with the success of all of you. So thanks for the honor. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate the recognition. More importantly to me is the fact that we had a wonderful partnership and continue to count me in. Thanks.
Some questions?
Oh, sure. I guess they want questions. Yeah. Oh. Not sure. Questions, I guess. Questions, comments, suggestions. Somebody have any questions? Yes.
I don't want you to slit your throat. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I really don't. But I'm just wondering if you think there will be another farm bill. And
Yes. I do.
Okay.
There are people that think there won't, and let's put it this way. This Farm Bill we just did was really all about reform versus status quo. And we realized as we were negotiating, and my staff who are fantastic, I mean, this was a real team effort. And as we went through everything from the commodity title to conservation to organics to international food, where we were trying to make changes and create more flexibility so we could have more people being fed internationally in our programs. Everything we were doing was reform. We were proposing reform versus status quo. The folks, particularly in the House, were very open about the fact that they would have been very happy to just change the date on the old Farm Bill and keep it going. And in fact, they did do that at the end of 2012 when we weren't successful in the House even taking it up. You know, they ended up, Mitch McConnell in the Senate insisted on putting this extension in for a year that kept direct payments going. Subsidies we all agreed should not keep going because they were checks to farmers in good times and made no sense from a taxpayer standpoint or any other. But it meant that a lot of things, like a lot of organic efforts, special crop efforts, ended because it was only 5-year funding, and the only thing that continued on in funding were things that had what's called baseline or 10-year funding. And so I made sure in 2013 they couldn't do that again. And we did a number of things to make sure they didn't have the votes in the Senate to continue the bill, that there wasn't political support for direct payments. We made sure that in the end they had to step up, but they would have loved to have just continued. So part of our strategy going forward was to make sure there's baseline funding in specialty crop programs and more organic programs. So so if we do end up with an extension for a year, we don't see everything stopping. Some things are budgeted over 10 years, even though it's a 5-year bill. So, you know, one of our goals underneath this was to try to get 10-year baseline funding for as many of the things that we thought were important. Because the things that were stopping in 2013 were organic, specialty crops, conservation, all the things that we were trying to get done. And so, so that's one thing. So even if it does get delayed next time, more of what we want will continue. But honestly, we're in a spot where if they just want to change the date on the next one, that may not, that's okay. I mean, I'm in a spot now where I might go, okay, because it's a good bill from our standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamic on it, because if all else fails, we continue current policy. And we've now put in place enough current policy that works from a broad standpoint that, you know, that's less of a risk for us than the last bill. Where we really needed a lot of change. So we'll see. But I think the coalition has changed. I think, quite honestly, the wonderful, broad coalition on conservation really helped move this bill. You know, we have a nutrition, fruit and vegetable, local food systems, farmers markets. It's a different coalition. And that's what we really have to keep going, I think.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Senator, thank you very much for your efforts. I'm Bob Quinn from Organic Farmer from Montana, and I'm wondering if the situation we have where we see more and more organic products being imported into America because we can't grow enough to sustain our own markets, could that be a broad-based, need that would cross over and get more support for what you're trying to do, what we're all trying to do?
I think that's a great point. And by the way, our wonderful Senator John Tester reminds me all the time about organics in Montana. So he was a wonderful partner on the Farm Bill. I think that's just another reason on need, right? It just demonstrates that we have more need and that we need to increase our own capacity. And so I think it's a great thing to point out. And it's another reason why we need to keep investing in opportunities for organics.
Marty Mesh with Florida Organic Growers and a certification program called Quality Certification Services. Certainly I want to echo and thank you for your leadership. Without you, it wouldn't have happened, just point blank. I think my questions are twofold, and certainly I can pile on by saying, you know, organic this and organic that. It's still a small public investment and long overdue public investment into a sector that holds so much promise. I think my questions are, if Congress can look at repealing or amending Obamacare 40 or 50 times, are you willing to engage in legislation before the next Farm Bill to really look at some of the things that fell short in the Farm Bill? We tried very hard, actively engaged in farming definition to try to clarify that, payment limitations, and I see a huge amount of direct payment savings being transferred to crop insurance payments, trying to tighten up some of this thing, and following up on the crop insurance part is the idea of externalizing GMO contamination that organic farmers face with public dollars in crop insurance. How are we going to fix that?
Well, first of all, I think, to be honest, it's very tough to go back and revisit this in the next 5 years. I think it's important for us to work with the USDA on tools that we gave them. Let me start with actively engage. We didn't get where I wanted to go. This actually was one of the top 2 things that held up the bill at the very end, which is payment reforms. And I actively supported Chuck Grassley. I was the only one in the negotiation. Of course, on most of this, I was the only one in the negotiation that was supporting things. But we did give power to the USDA, and this is an important thing to ask the Secretary, because we did make a step on payment reforms. There were no payment reforms on marketing loans. There was no caps on marketing loans in the past. Only a cap on direct payments, but not anything else. We put an overall cap on the commodity title of everything for the first time. And we took Senator Grassley's overall cap. We weren't able to break it down like I wanted to, program by program, but we did pass his overall cap on the commodity title. Actively engaged is something we gave the power to the Secretary to address. We had an implementation hearing. We asked him about that. That needs to be done. And I expect that they're going to be coming out with rules, because they can do the kind of thing that was in the Grassley Amendment through rule now, because we've given them the authority to do that. So I think we need to really engage with them on making those kinds of things happen. On the GMO front, that's very much a discussion that will be coming up in a larger context through what's called the HELP Committee, Health, Education, Labor, Pensions Committee, that Senator Harkin chairs, because they oversee the FDA. And so there's a lot of discussion between Agriculture and Health Committee around that broadly, that needs to continue. And those are things I don't know if we can do on the planting issues, if the USDA can do anything administratively or not. We should look at that. But the idea of opening up the bill would be very tough, very, 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 very tough at this point. And all we would do is get attacked for all the things that we passed. And the reason, let me mention the reason that is very clear about this. The appropriators in the House just came out with their agriculture bill. And even though they got the same amount of money in appropriations for agriculture funding as they did last year and did not need to cut, they heavily cut conservation. They cut nutrition, they went after the energy title, they went after all the things that were our priorities, the Democratic priorities, and cut them, even though they didn't need to because of the appropriations level they were given. And so they seriously attacked child nutrition. I think it was $400 million on conservation. It was just, clearly it was a political attack on what we had won in the Farm Bill. So to open that up again with that gang would not be a fun experience. So.
Thank you. Senator Stabenow, I want to thank you for your leadership. It's a farm bill that we can definitely live and work with. Doug Crabtree, I'm an organic farmer from Montana. And I just want to ask you, I guess, conceptually, the idea of moving from direct payments to crop insurance support is a good one. However, in practice, crop insurance tends to support monoculture and broad swaths of non-diverse agriculture at the expense of diversity. And somehow we have to get that program changed to better support what should be less risky systems, such as organic and diverse cropping. And right now it just doesn't. And I think the whole farm package may be a step in that direction, but that's a tiny part of a giant program. And it also appears, my comment would be a ticking time bomb for taxpayers in terms of the way crop insurance is subsidized. So I just want to encourage you to continue your leadership and think about how we can make that a better program, and I guess ask if you have any thoughts on, how we can get support in crop insurance away from wheat, corn, cotton, the biggies, and more support from it, more equitable support for more diverse cropping systems.
I couldn't agree with you more. In the big picture, the move we had to make was to end direct payments, which sounded easy at the end because everybody supported it. This was not easy. And this is not easy. And so we had to do that, move to risk management, which is crop insurance. And we, by the way, moved to insurance, an insurance process in dairy, an insurance process in cotton. We are moving to insurance where there's risk management. We may help share in the cost to make it affordable, but there's no payout unless there's a loss. So that shift, it was a big deal to go from just writing checks to somebody getting a bill for insurance. And then you have the same 80-20 and so on. It's in terms of deductibles and all that. The next thing is, how does crop insurance work, though? And we have given instructions to the Risk Management Agency, to RMA, to broaden who is receiving crop insurance, and it's going to take them a while to get that done. And that's really, really important. And I think going into the next Farm Bill, the real discussion will be then focused on crop insurance, how to do that. We are expanding fruits and vegetables. I can tell you, 2 years ago in Michigan, our tart cherries got wiped out because of an early thaw and then a late freeze. And I mean, literally, 98% of the crop was gone. They had no access to crop insurance. We now have a new policy that is starting available to them this year, just because I went in and pushed, to be able to get something like that, and we're broadening fruits and vegetables. But for small operations, or maybe even larger ones, the idea of the whole farm, so it's not just one crop, we put in place the ability for RMA to develop whole farm policies. As I said, I think you're going to hear more about that later today from the Secretary, because that is the next step, doing the whole farm and not just one commodity. So we're seeing some things happen. And then we have to look at sort of the structure of it, the cost of it, all of that we have to take a look at. But the first step was going from a subsidy model to a risk-based model, so that, we are not seeing a payout unless there's a loss. And that was what happened in this bill in a very big way. So then we go to risk management tools on the next one, and what does that look like, and all of that. So you raised very good points. Mohammed.
Senator, first we thank you as a Michigander. Thank you for your service to our state and our country. And I want to tell you that how much we are proud of you as organization, and also an affiliation to all the institution and groups I work with. My comment to you is, our organic grains, which we use in animal agriculture in our country, really needs to be helped, because most of the farmers have overburdened with regulations and other things. And now we are trying to outreach outside to import from other countries. And whom knows where we are getting. Can you comment on that, please?
You're talking about from a grain standpoint, from a feed standpoint?
Right.
In terms of regulation or export, I mean, we certainly are looking for more opportunities around export, import, those kinds of things all the time.
Regulation to make sure that we let our farmers here producing, and put the regulations in steep stairs, not strongly at one time, that we encourage the grain producers in Michigan and other states to transfer from regular grain production to organic.
I see. That's something that we should really talk further about, because I'm not clear what the regulations are that are stopping them right now, and whether they're state or federal. I would like to talk to you about that. That's not something that we really got into in the Farm Bill process, and certainly is something that we should take a closer look at. I think more and more what we're seeing as we develop and mature the organic industry, we see more and more issues that are coming up. We know where there's a barrier, there's a problem, there's a this, and that we need to address it. And I'm hearing more about issues like regulations now than we've heard before. And that's probably an area we need to take a big look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for your time today and all your support of the organic industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.